All right, good evening, ladies and gentlemen. It's it's been a little while. It's been a little while. I've kind of been ignoring this channel. Not intentionally, of course. Just we've been doing so much on the pop culture channel, which is linked down in the description box below that I don't know, man. I just haven't had the time. I haven't had the time. But we're here because today is the first Tuesday of May. And the 2024 presidential election is the first Tuesday of November. That means that we are 6 months away, 6 months away from the 2024 election. And tonight, we are going to be giving our predictions, my predictions, for the 2024 presidential election. We'll talk about the Senate, the House of Representatives. We'll talk about all that stuff later. But tonight we're going to talk about my predictions for the 2024 presidential election and who I think is going to win, how things have changed since the last time I did this type of video, which the last time I did this type of video was back in November. And that was predicting the election a year out, a year away. Obviously, things have happened. The primaries have happened. Trump and Biden are clearly going to be the ones running in November. And things have definitely changed. Some things have definitely changed. Now, in November of last year, of 2023, I did my predictions, and I've got the map pulled up. I got the video pulled up where I gave my predictions. And in those predictions, I had Biden winning 308, and what did I have Trump at? 230. So Biden 308, Trump 230. So I said that I thought Biden was going to win. And we're going to find out tonight. Do I still think that the Democrats going to win? Do I still think Biden's going to win? Do I think Trump's not going to get a chance to take back the White House? Is Biden going to get reelected? We're going to find out tonight. Do I stick by that? Do I stand by that? I will say some things have changed. Some things have changed. But we'll dive into that. Now, here's the other thing you have to also remember when it comes to this. It's not about who I want to win. It's not about who I want to win or who I don't want to win or where I stand politically, because personally, I consider myself to be very independent in terms of my politics. There's some things I agree with the Democrats on, some things I agree with the Republicans on. And my political stances have shifted somewhat as well in recent years for a number of factors. But it's not about the party or who I want to win. It's just looking at the trends, looking at the numbers, looking at the polling, which, to be honest with you, the polling doesn't really matter right now because most people aren't going to be paying attention until late summer anyways. So the polling doesn't really matter right now. It's mostly about the trends and like the larger trends. Because again, the presidential election it's a national election. So it's more about that. It's more about the larger trends and where things are going. And I said back in my previous video, my previous prediction, I said that if you look at the trends nationwide, they are moving towards the left. Again, that's not about whether I want that to happen or not. That's what the trends are showing. It's kind of like a weatherman or a weatherwoman or a meteorologist giving you, like saying, oh, here comes a hurricane. Well, it's not that they want the hurricane to happen. It's just there's the right conditions for a hurricane to happen. Things are trending towards that way. It looks like a hurricane could happen. And they're telling you, based on the signs, based on the trends, based on what's going on with the weather, that, hey, there's a hurricane coming. And I'm telling you right now, when you look at the trends in the United States, everything is pointing left. Everything is pointing blue. With some exceptions in certain states. Certain states are trending red. And we're going to break that down tonight. So if you look at the map that I had back in November, you will see that there's like a big swath of red right here in the middle of the country. There's some little dots of blue here in between, but mostly the blue's up here, the blue's over here. You see a lot of blue in the East Coast, especially the New England area. You see a lot of blue in the Rust Belt. You see blue on the West Coast. And then here in the Midwest, there's little pockets of blue. Little pockets of blue. There's some states which have traditionally been swing states that I think have shifted to either red states or blue states, depending on, the trends that have happened in recent elections. So that's my map from last time. That's my map from last time. So let's move on from that and get to the map we're going to be using tonight. So last time I used the PBS map. Tonight I found a pretty decent one over on CNN, to be honest with you. This is a pretty decent map, I think, in terms of its design, in terms of its looks. It's a pretty decent map. So CNN's got their map pulled up, and very interesting, for people say, oh, CNN's biased, here on their map, this is CNN's ratings, their polls. They actually have Trump winning 272 to 225, which is different from the map I have, where I have Biden winning with 308. Now, of course, there is lean Republican in the pink. There's lean Democrat in the light blue. There is safe Republican in the red. There is safe Democrat in the blue. And then there's toss-ups. And they really only have 3 toss-ups on here, that being Wisconsin, Pennsylvania, and Arizona. Interestingly enough, Michigan and Georgia are lean Republican, which I found to be very interesting on this map, to be honest with you. But that being said, so this is the map that CNN has up right now. And by the way, I did send the link out to some people that I usually talk with on the Pop Culture channel. I don't know if they'll show up. I don't know if they want to engage with a political video or not. That's completely up to them, of course. But we might get some guests as we continue on tonight. We might get some guests, but we're gonna jump into this. So, and as far as the Senate and the House, I will be doing separate videos on them at some point. At this point, we're so far out from the election that I don't really see much of a point of talking about the House necessarily. And honestly, I don't really feel the point of talking about individual House races. Maybe the Senate would be more interesting, to be honest with you, but I don't see a point in talking about that right now. I think the presidential election is the only thing that you can really glean anything from at this point. And even that is very shaky because, again, most people are not going to be paying attention to the election until late summer. We're talking about like August, pretty much, after July 4th. That's when we're going to start getting some real data as far as what people think. All right. So this is CNN's map. This is what CNN has up right now. We are going to turn this into a, for the sake of conversation, this is the 2020 map where Biden won 303, Trump had 235. That was the 2020 election that CNN has here, and my mouse is acting weird for some strange reason. Work, damn you! There we go. Here's the 2016 map where. No, wait a minute. Hold up. Why is? Oh, start with the 2016 map. Okay, I was about to say, why is Biden there? That should be Hillary. Anyway, so of course, Trump has 307, Biden 231. It's interesting how we got the inverse of 2016 and 2020. That's kind of interesting. But now we go back to the 2024 map. All right. So let's go ahead and jump into this. Let's go ahead and we will bring up a blank map. There we go. So we have a blank map at this point. So we're going to go through this and we're going to talk about the ones that are safely in either column. So here we go. The states that are going to be safely, and I'm going to leave some of these blanks because there's some interesting trends in some of these states, even though they are safe Democrat or safe Republican this time around. There's some interesting trends going on here in some of these states. So let's go ahead and jump into this. So As far as like safe Republican states go, we have Idaho. We have Utah. Obviously, got the huge Mormon support there. We have Wyoming. We have Montana. We have North Dakota. We have South Dakota. We have Nebraska. We have Kansas. We have Oklahoma. We have Arkansas. We have Missouri. We have Iowa. We have Mississippi. We have Alabama. We have South Carolina. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave South Carolina alone. That's not exactly a totally safe state, so I'm going to leave that alone for now. Then we go to West Virginia. In the past has been a toss-up state, but given the trends that are going, we'll leave that alone for now. We'll leave that alone for now. Louisiana. There we go. Yeah, that's a safe Republican state. All right, so there's a safe Republican state. So now let's look at the states that are safely in the Democratic column. So when it comes to the Democrats, Alaska. Alaska is going to go Republican. Actually, you know what? I'm going to leave Alaska blank for now because there's something I want to talk about when it comes to Alaska. All right, so when it comes to safe Democratic states, Washington, Oregon, California is the big one, obviously. Hawaii, New Mexico, Colorado. Actually, I'm going to leave those two alone because I want to talk about those real quick. Illinois. Oh, Indiana's safely Republican too. Yeah. And Kentucky's safely Republican as well. Let's see here. New York, safely Democrat. We have Maine, which is also a safely Democratic state. Vermont, New Hampshire, Massachusetts. Those are all safely Democrat. A lot of New England is safely Democrat, pretty much. There's not really, here we have Maryland. There's not really any chance of the Republican pulling anything off here. And then I'm just trying to see if there's any other state I need to cover that is in the safe category, or that is not something that I want to bring up as a topic of conversation. All right. So the other states are what's really interesting at this point. And you also see my home state of Tennessee here, which usually is safely in the Republican column. And it will also be safely in the Republican column this time around as well. There's no doubt that Tennessee is going to go Republican this time around again. That's obvious. But there's something interesting happening in Tennessee that I do want to bring up that I think is a positive sign for the Democrats. So we'll talk about that here in a second. So there are states on here that in the past historically have been swing states, but in the last few elections, they have trended one way solidly, and now they're no longer what I would call toss-up states. They are, I think they are at this point safely in either category at this point. I really do. And the big one on that list is Colorado. In the past, Colorado has gone Republican, it's gone Democrat, it's been a swing state, it's been a very purple state. Ever since the Obama era, ever since Obama has been president, it has gone for the Democrat. It has been solidly blue. The last time it's really in contention, as far as I know, would be during the George Bush era. But since Obama, it has gone solidly blue. At this point, it is a blue state at this point. And that's also the same with New Mexico. New Mexico is a very solidly blue state at this point. It's not going to go to the Republican. In the past, it has been a toss-up. Not so much these days. Not so much these days. So if we continue on with this, on the inverse side, we have Ohio, which has also been a solid toss-up state in the past. It's been a toss-up state in the past. But in recent elections, it has turned more red, gone more right, And so I would put Ohio in the safe Republican category at this point. I really would. And a similar situation is going on down in Florida, where Florida used to be a toss-up state. Obviously, we have the 2000 election with George Bush and Al Gore, and how big of a deal that Florida was in that election. It was like the toss-up states of all toss-up states. But in recent years, it has trended pretty conservative, pretty red, and I think it's pretty much at this point safely a Republican state, at least for the foreseeable future. Now, this is where things start to get interesting. If we look here at South Carolina and North Carolina, these two are kind of very similar to what Colorado and New Mexico are to Ohio and Florida, where they're kind of inverses, where they used to be toss-up states, but now Colorado and New Mexico go pretty hardcore blue, and Ohio and Florida go pretty hardcore red at this point. They're not really toss-up states anymore. North Carolina and South Carolina, I would still say are toss-up states, but there are trends. There's trends at this point in these two states. And it is interesting how in South Carolina has been trending more red. In fact, South Carolina has been trending more solidly red as compared to North Carolina, which has had kind of a blue trend. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to give South Carolina to a Republican, but we're going to give it to Donald Trump. But North Carolina, even though it has been trending blue, there still is a strong Republican element there. So North Carolina, I would say, is a true toss-up state at this point. I would really say it's a true toss-up state. CNN does have it leaning red on their map, but I would say at this point it's a true toss-up state. That's my personal opinion on that. However, in my previous map, I did have it going blue. I'm going to leave North Carolina alone for just a second because the results in North Carolina, they trend towards a larger topic, larger discussion that I want to have. So let's look at West Virginia real quick. West Virginia in the past has been a toss-up state, but in the last few elections, it has been solid red, and it has gotten even more red since the last election. So I think at this point, West Virginia is a safe Republican state. I don't see it going blue at this point. And there's a reason why Joe Manchin is it's stepping aside, it's stepping down. So if we continue onwards, we really start to get into the true toss-up states, the Rust Belt, some of the southern states here, Arizona, Nevada. Now, before we get into these toss-up states, I do want to bring something up with three states in particular, and those three states are Alaska, Texas, and my home state of Tennessee, where I come from. And there's some very interesting things happening here. So first, in Alaska, there has been some trends towards the left. There's been some trends towards Democrats, which is, and I'm not really sure why. I'm not as familiar with Alaskan politics, but that is happening. That is starting to happen in Alaska. You do see some trends towards the Democrats. Alaska is still going to go red this time. There's no doubt about that. But we also see a similar effect happening in Texas, where you do see, I mean, Texas is an interesting case study here. And the reason why I say that is because there are people talking about Texas in the future. We're talking about 3 or 4 elections down the line. So we're looking at not 2028, probably not 2032, maybe 2036, 2040. We could see Texas go blue because there is some demographic changes and there is some rising levels of Democratic support in Texas, specifically in the urban areas. So Texas is going to go red this time around, but keep an eye on Texas. Because Texas, there's pockets of Texas that are trending blue. And if those pockets continue to grow, you could see in the very near future, Texas could become a true toss-up state. Not going to be solidly Democrat, but Texas could become a true toss-up state. And we could see it go blue in the future, which if that happens, if Democrats are able to get California and Texas, it becomes damn near impossible for a Republican to win at that point. Again, it's interesting, but this time it's going to go red. Now we get to Tennessee. We have a very similar case, a very similar situation happening in Tennessee as to what is happening in Texas. And that is there are pockets of my state, pockets of Tennessee, to where you do see a rising Democratic movement. Our state legislature has been big in the news lately, big in the news. And you've had some Democrats that have really become rising stars. And it's kind of created a groundswell of support among Tennessee Democrats, that they are rising up, that they are feeling empowered. Now, there's not enough of them in this election to change anything. Tennessee is still going to go red. Tennessee is still pretty solidly red at this point. But there are trends in Tennessee which suggest to me that in the future it could become a toss-up state, which is surprising, very surprising. One of the biggest ones is at the Volkswagen plant in Tennessee, which is the only Volkswagen plant in the world that is not unionized. They voted to unionize just recently, just in like the last month or so. That is like the first union formed in Tennessee in decades. That's huge. And this goes to a larger topic that I want to bring up in this video, and that is this. Why are we seeing these trends towards the left, these trends towards Democrats? A lot of people will say it's because of the big A, because of abortion, because of the Dobbs decision. And you see a lot of Democrats really pushing like, oh, that's what's going to get us back. That's what's going to get us to hold the White House, maybe take back Congress. I don't actually think that's it at all. Because I think when you look at the trends from a social policy standpoint, Democrats take pretty big hits on those issues. But I think it's really the economic issues to where Democrats' greatest strength lies. And I think a lot of people have realized, especially with the pandemic, especially with how people lost their jobs and were laid off. I mean, people started to realize it doesn't matter how hard I work. It doesn't matter how loyal I am to my company or to my business or to my job. I could be let go like that. I mean nothing to these people. Why would I waste my life working for these corporations that don't give a damn about me? Why would I give loyalty to corporations that showed no loyalty to me? And a lot of people have turned on corporate America. A lot of people have turned on corporate America because of the pandemic. The pandemic kind of opened people's eyes to a lot of the bullshit in the so-called free market. And it's not really a free market. A lot of people have started to sour on the idea of capitalism in general. And I know for some people that's hard to understand, especially on the right. But even on the right, I've seen people. I mean, again, Tennessee is a very conservative state. And even here, people have started to turn against corporate America. They've started to unionize. It's something that I didn't think I would see in at least not at this point in my life. Maybe in the future, but I didn't think I'd see it now. The fact that that is happening, it really says something about how people feel towards the private sector, towards corporations, towards business. And a lot of people are just like, you guys who have fucked us over, you will continue to try and fuck us over in the future. So now we're sticking up the middle finger and saying, fuck you. And if Democrats will really push an economic message, I think a lot of people are interested in that, even on the right. Because if you look at the polling when it comes to things like universal health care, even though it's not the majority of Republicans in support of universal health care, there is a sizable portion of the Republican Party that, or Republican voters, I should say, that actually are in favor of universal health care, of a single payer system. And when you combine that sizable portion of the right with the majority of the left that is in favor of that system, that those combined tells you that the majority of Americans are in support of a universal healthcare system. They're in support of more funding for public schools. They're in support of unions. They're in support of more help from the government. Things like UBI. And these are starting to become more and more popular, more and more accepted, because I think people are seeing more and more the necessity for this stuff. They're starting to realize that the free market, the private sector, capitalism, is not able to provide these services, and that maybe capitalism is not the end all be all. Maybe the free market can't solve everything or provide everything. That maybe there is a place for government. And we're not talking about communism or socialism. We're talking about a mixed market. We're talking about a mixed system, like what they have in places like Sweden and a lot of the Netherlands countries, the UK, Canada, Australia, places like that. And a lot of people are starting to realize, hey, it works in those countries. And, part of that is because of the internet. We're more connected than we ever have been. So you can find this information. A lot of people are starting to realize, hey, if it works in those countries, why can't it work here? I mean, look at Finland, for example. Finland has damn near solved homelessness. If they can do it, why can't the supposed most richest, most powerful, most successful nation on earth do the same? So I think if Democrats really focus on an economic message, I think they would see more success in places that they wouldn't necessarily expect. The problem is that the Democrats have somebody like Joe Biden, which, don't get me wrong, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm this huge Trump supporter. I don't like either one of these guys. This is the most depressing election of my lifetime. I'm not kidding. This is the most depressing election of my lifetime. I have never felt more depressed about participating in the democratic process than I do this time around. We have a guy that, in Joe Biden, that clearly is too old for this job. And then we have Donald Trump, who is potentially going to go to jail, going to go to prison. And these are the two clowns that we have running in the most powerful democracy on earth. That's shameful. That we're a laughing stock. And the fact that we would nominate these people, again, we're not a serious country. We're not a serious people. We don't take this seriously. We don't take our own elections seriously. We don't take our own government seriously. We don't take our own duty, our civic duty as citizens seriously. And it's absolutely fucking depressing. It's absolutely depressing that we allow this to be our election in 2024. Can we not do better? On both sides, can we not do better? I'm like, it almost brings me to tears. I mean, this is a joke. But anyways, Tennessee, there's some trends towards the left, towards the Democrats, but this year it will go red. It is a safe red state. All right, so then we get into what I would really consider to be the true toss-up states. Now, here's the thing. I said in my previous video that I did on this topic, we'll start with North Carolina. I thought North Carolina was going to go blue, and for now, we will put it in the Democratic column. But when we get to some of these other states, Nevada. Nevada is very similar to Colorado, to be honest with you, in a lot of respects. It's very similar to Colorado. Um, and I would say even today, it's still Nevada is still the type of toss-up state that Colorado was in the past. Colorado is pretty much a solid Democratic state at this point. Uh, but Nevada is still a very purple state. And it could honest to God go either way. I have a really tough time predicting Nevada. I mean, a really tough time predicting Nevada. But given the national trends that I see towards the Democrats, because you got to remember, we've had special elections all throughout this election cycle. There's been special elections, and Democrats have won almost all of them, if not all of them. They've won the vast majority of them. So that tells me that the trends are going towards the Democrats. And I think when you give its proximity to the West Coast, I am still to this day, even though CNN has Nevada leaning Republican, I'm going to be honest with you, I am still semi-confident that Nevada is going to go blue. And when I say semi-confident, I mean, if I was to split it among percentages, I would say 70-30. I think there's a 70% chance that the Democrats take it in Nevada. When we go down to, or actually, let's move over to Georgia. So Georgia is another one of those states that is, I would say, pretty much a purple state. And now in the past, it's been reliably Republican, but it has gone Democratic a few times. The most prominent example being with Obama. But I think when you look at the growth of the African American population in Georgia, and again, going based off of national trends, Georgia, I think, is still a very purple state. It's still a true toss-up, in my opinion. And CNN has it leaning Republican, but again, I'm going to give it to the Democrat. In the last video I did on this, I gave it to Biden, and I think I still hold to that. I think it's going to be close in Georgia. But I still think Biden's going to pull it out there. All right. So we're left really at this point. The only states that are left is Arizona, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, and Virginia. These are true toss-ups. And we'll look at Virginia first. So when it comes to Virginia, Virginia is another one of those that in the past has been a very purple state. It has been reliably going Democrat. In quite a few elections now. Really, again, since the Obama era, it's been going Democrat. And with the demographic changes there, with the way the population has continued to grow and change and the makeup of the population, I still think it's going to go Democrat again this year. All right, so now we get to the states that are really going to decide this election. We have Joe Biden at 251. We have Trump at 219. And Biden just needs 19 electoral college votes, which means if he were to get Pennsylvania, Biden wins. If he were to get any two of the other ones, Minnesota, Wisconsin, Michigan, Arizona, Biden wins. Trump needs 51. This is where we start to get into some changes. So, in my previous video, I said that Arizona was going to be a Republican state. However, there has been some trends in Arizona. There has been some stuff happening in Arizona that has made me take a step back and rethink that. And this is kind of interesting because in my previous video, I actually had Arizona going to the Republican, going to Donald Trump, and Michigan going to Joe Biden, going blue. Because I thought the Rust Belt was going to come out heavy for Biden due to his support of unions, because these states are heavily unionized states. They're heavily unionized states, and the unions have endorsed Biden. However, things have kind of changed at this point. I think Republicans have lost ground in Arizona um, because of the whole abortion situation. But I think Biden's lost ground in Michigan because of the Israel situation. And what I mean is that there is a huge Arab American electorate in Michigan. And the way Biden has completely disregarded the protesters and the perception that he's not been tough enough on Benjamin Netanyahu, I think has really hurt Biden's image and his support among Arab Americans. And because of that, I think he's taken a huge blow in Michigan. And CNN on their map actually has Michigan leaning Republican, which I thought was crazy 6 months ago. Now, however, because of the disappointment by Arab American voters in Biden, I can understand where they're coming from. So let's just, for fun, let's just say that Biden pulls out an upset in Arizona and Trump pulls out an upset in Michigan. Biden still has a much easier time getting to the nomination because he only needs one of these. He only needs one of these, one of the three that are left. Trump needs all three, even if Trump does get Michigan. Now, let's say that Trump keeps Arizona. All right. Trump still needs to get two of these in order to win. Biden could win with just Pennsylvania. But here's what I'm going to say. And I've thought really hard about this Arizona decision. I think this is going to be very close in Arizona. I think it's almost 50-50 in Arizona. But I think the population still skews towards Republicans, still skews conservative enough. And I mean, just barely enough, just by the slimmest of margins, enough to where I think Trump is still going to pull out a very close win in Arizona. Very close win. Very, very, very close win. And see, even saying that, I feel uncomfortable because Biden did win Arizona last time. I don't know, man. Let's see, like now that I've done that, my gut is telling me, hold up, Jesker. Hold up, man. Wait a second. Are you sure about this? You know what? Let's give Arizona to Biden. Let's say he's able to do what he did in 2020. Let's say Biden does what he did in 2020 and he's able to pull that out. But let's say that he's hurt himself enough in Michigan to where Trump is able to pull out a victory. Let's say that CNN is right. Let's actually switch it up this time. Let's say CNN is right and Trump pulls out a win in Michigan. And it's possible. And people say, well, so wait a minute. Are you saying that Muslim voters, that Arab American voters are going to vote for Trump? No. No. That's not the scenario we're talking about here. They just won't vote at all. And so the idea is that they won't vote for Biden, but they won't vote for Trump. And so because they won't vote for Biden, the number of Trump voters will end up overtaking the number of Biden voters. And Trump will be able to pull out a victory that way. So let's switch it up from what I did previously, because before I had Michigan going for Biden, I had Arizona go for Trump. Let's switch it up and say that Arizona goes for Biden this time and Michigan goes for Trump. Let's say that happens. Biden still only needs one more state to win. Trump needs all three of these states to win. But if we were to look at the CNN if we were to look at the CNN map, Wisconsin is a true toss-up. Here's the thing, though. I've actually seen some polls. I've seen some information coming out of Wisconsin that kind of does trend towards the Republican, that trends towards Trump. So at this point, I think Wisconsin is still obviously a toss-up, but I will say this. I kind of think Wisconsin leans Republican now. I gave Wisconsin to Biden in my previous video, but I do think Wisconsin is actually leaning Republican now. So I'm actually, at this point in time, I'm going to give Wisconsin to Donald Trump. All right, so that leaves us with Minnesota, and that leaves us with Pennsylvania. And this is going to be do or die at this point. Oh man, this is interesting. So Trump needs to win both of these states. Biden only needs to win one. This is still the Rust Belt. This is still a very unionized area. Pennsylvania has been fool's gold for Republicans up until Trump. Trump is the first Republican in a very long time that actually was able to pull out a victory in Pennsylvania. But I don't think people in Pennsylvania, I don't think they feel it anymore. I don't think they're going back to Trump again. They did not go to Trump in 2020. And I have seen nothing in Pennsylvania that tells me that they're going to go to Trump in 2024. I've seen nothing. Nothing. There's no evidence I've seen that says that Pennsylvania is going to go red. I think 2020 was a one-time fluke for the Republicans to win in Pennsylvania. So I'm giving Pennsylvania to Biden. And with that, we haven't even got to Minnesota, but with that, Biden wins 281 to Trump's 244. Now, we get to Minnesota. Minnesota is leaning Democrat, leaning towards Biden. So I'm going to go ahead and give that to Biden. Not that it makes much of a difference, but that brings Biden to 291. That brings Trump to 244. Biden wins. Now, that is not as big of a gap as last time because in my previous video, I had Biden winning by 308 and Trump losing at 230. This has changed to where Trump actually has gained some electoral votes. And that's because I took Arizona away from Trump and I gave him Michigan, and I took Michigan away from Biden and I gave it to Trump. Did I say that right? I gave Michigan, I took Michigan away from Biden, gave Michigan to Trump, took Arizona away from Trump, gave Arizona to Biden. Because I think that's where things are kind of leaning at this point. And Michigan is still, Michigan could still easily go for Biden. Which at that point, if that's the case, Biden actually wins at 306, which is much closer to my original prediction for how I think this is going to play out. Back when I made my prediction video last year in November. 6 months later, that's still pretty close. And to be honest with you, Michigan, I could see really going to Biden, even with the negative perception of Biden among Arab Americans and Arab voters in Michigan. The union voters may still be enough to push Biden over the edge. I think Michigan's going to be damn close. I also switched up and gave Wisconsin to Donald Trump as well because I think the trends in Wisconsin actually point towards Trump winning there. Even though, again, it's going to be damn close. So the one that The one that I'm really at this point that I just look at, I'm like, I'm really not sure. The two that just make me go, I don't know, are Arizona and Michigan. Arizona and Michigan. I would say that the election may come down to these two states, and it may come down to these two states. But you notice I took Michigan off the board. Biden still wins. Biden doesn't need Michigan or Arizona to win. He doesn't. Pennsylvania is so important for him, and I think Pennsylvania is going blue. I don't see Pennsylvania going back to Trump. I don't know why they would. I don't. Between 2020, where Biden won Pennsylvania, and now 2024, to where we are at this point in the election, I've not seen any evidence of Pennsylvania returning to its 2020 state where it supported Trump. Or the 2016, where Pennsylvania went for Trump. I don't see 2024 Pennsylvania going back to 2016 Pennsylvania and supporting Trump. I don't see any evidence of that. So I think Pennsylvania is kind of the deciding factor here. But if Pennsylvania if Pennsylvania did not go for Biden, let's just say somehow, some way it went for Trump, I don't see the evidence of that. Then the election comes down to Arizona and Michigan. And I think those may be the closest states in the entire election. I think the results in these states may be the slimmest margin in the entire election, possibly the slimmest results in two states that we have seen in any election in modern American history, even more than the Florida Al Gore, George Bush debacle, even more than that. I don't think it's going to come down to these two states. I think Pennsylvania is going to go blue, but it could. If things get crazy, if things get real crazy, it could. Let's say that Trump pulls out a victory in Georgia. Even with Pennsylvania, all of a sudden, Michigan and Arizona, really important. Really important. Comes down to those two states. If things change ever so slightly, one way or the other, it could come down to Arizona and Michigan. Arizona and Michigan could be the two biggest, most crucial states in this entire election. But for now, I'm actually going to give Arizona to Biden, and I'm going to give Trump to Michigan. Although I will tell you right now, I'm very hesitant to give Michigan to Trump. Very hesitant. Because I still think there's enough union support there that Biden's going to win. Even if Arab Americans are pissed off at Biden in Michigan, I still think there's enough support there to push Biden over the edge. But right now it is lean Republican on CNN's map. So for now, I'm actually going to give Trump Michigan. But damn, I don't feel good about it because it's such a toss-up. Arizona, Michigan, they may be the deciding factors in this election. But that is my updated map. 6 months out from Election Day, where we have Biden still winning the election at 291 Electoral College votes. Not as much as what I had him before, because again, in my previous video, when I did this 6 months ago, a year out from the election, I had Biden at 308. I had Trump at 230. Trump has actually gained ground since then, where Trump has 244. Biden has 291. But I still think that Biden is going to win. I still think he's going to win the election. I still think the trends overall, when you look at the special elections that we've had, when you look at certain things that are going on in red states that kind of are like, whoa, wait a minute, there's some pockets of blue here. There's some blue trends going on here. Not enough to change these states, but if this is happening in red states, what does that say for toss-up states? What does that say for places like Arizona and Michigan and these other toss-ups. Like, what does that say about them? If there's these little pockets of blue that are catching on fire in these red states, there may be enough momentum for the blue in toss-up states where they can pull off a victory, to where they will pull off a victory. And I think that's what's happening. I think the trends point towards the Democrats winning. Again, we will do a video in the future talking about the Senate and the House, but tonight I wanted to get out this video on the presidential election and give you an updated map 6 months later and 6 months away from the 2024 election. At this point, this is where I think things stand. I think Joe Biden's going to win with 291 electoral college votes, and Donald Trump's going to lose with 244 electoral college votes. And I think Biden has an easier path to the White House. Biden can lose more states compared to what Trump can. There's very few. There's basically there's no toss-up states pretty much that Trump can lose and still be president. Biden has a little more wiggle room, and that may be all he needs to pull off a victory. So I think Joe Biden's going to win. 291 to Trump's 244. That being said, as I said at the top of the video, the top of the stream, this is a very sad election. I mean, this is very depressing. The best that we can put up for our nominees is these clowns? Really? This is sad, man. Do better, America. In 2028, put up some real candidates. Put up some serious people. Can we be a serious nation? For the love of God, this is a clown show. This is an absolute clown show. Do better. Do better. On both sides, do better. All right. That being said, thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. We're going to call it a stream. We're going to wrap this up. But that is my updated predictions for the 2024 election. 6 months away from Election Day. There we go. Thank you guys so much for watching. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. Of course, if you can support the channel financially, you'll find that information at the bottom of the screen right now. There are links down in the description box below. If you cannot, check out my other social media, check out my other channels. Those are also linked down in the description box below. And of course, like, share, the comment, click the bell for notifications, subscribe, all that good stuff. Share the content, especially to get more people watching. Would very much be appreciated. All right, until the next one, this is Jesse James, and I am signing out.